In the everlasting quest for ultra-high stability, I decided I wanted to try my hand at designing a W7000 inspired board with some of its features. I decided to order these boards from Eisler, which I think they came out looking stellar, especially with the solder mask and the silk screen looking pitch perfect.
Wow!
The only single complaint I have is those mouse bites on the side of the board. Okay, enough looking at those beautiful boards. What makes this board good are the resistance networks that have been used. Here on the bottom is a resistor network for the 10 volt output, and besides that there are the two inherently thermally matched resistor networks. Above there is also a resistor for the thermal compensation of the LTZ. Now it is time to finally file off those unsightly mouse bites. After quickly rinsing the two PCBs in isopropyl alcohol, I can finally go ahead and start stenciling up the PCB for the components assembly. For the stencil, I'm using a self-made stencil with a laser cutter. You can actually make these very easily from some Christmas cards. Thank you, Grandma. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. For the solder, I'm using a low thermal melting point solder. This solder should be a little worse than regular leaded solder, but it's better for the environment and also doesn't stress the components quite as much in the reflowing process. After smearing the solder paste across the stencil, it looks a little thick. But that is no problem, I'm certain it will fix itself in the oven. Now I can finally move on to placing the components. Now that the components are in place, I can finally put it in the oven. Oh, would you look at that? The oven's already done. Now, as usual, some minor fixes. Now, time for one of the more critical parts, placing the resistors. The reason I went with these elongated slots is that I can now fit many types of resistors. Now I have to carefully solder these in place and snip the leads off, and the resistors will be good in place. Once the board is ready, it is now time to populate the LTZ. But before that, first a quick rinse with isopropyl alcohol to keep out any contaminants. If that isn't a beautiful component, I don't know what is. Now time to carefully solder it in place with its socket. Now one more final clean with isopropyl alcohol, and then I can finally test out the board and see how it performs.